What is easier to do if you're a woman? A couple of people have interpreted this as groping each other, but I feel like what I really notice in men is that they aren't as comfortable with intimacy, sitting right up next to each other thigh to thigh on the couch under a blanket to watch a movie, resting a head on the other person's shoulder, gently moving an eyelash off of someone's face. Holding hands are all practices I've experienced within my platonic relationships with women that I've never generally seen men be comfortable with. Like, yeah, smacking each other's butts is whatever, but I think it's kind, gentle physical touch that is lacking. That depends on country and culture, I think. Here we hug when we greet, and kissing on the cheek is pretty much normal for males and females, and it's not considered sexual when a man kisses a woman on the cheek when he hugs her as a greeting. Sometimes relatives who you've not seen in a long time even force you into a hug and cheek kisses, which can be annoying tbh. But yeah, depends on country and culture, tradition, I think. Yeah, true that. I have a female friend who went to an all-girls school who recently joined my friend group in college, and she is very super touchy and flirty towards every guy, and all the guys are like, "Whoa, WHG, are you touching me?" type thing, but she doesn't mean to. It's just how it was in her old school. It's weird. I go a step further and say affectionately touching friends, my boys and I will give each other a punch to the arm, ass slap, cup check, or a playful hump, but our wives or girlfriends will lay across each other on the couch, snuggle, play with each other's hair, etc. Edit. I love that people are calling out the playful hump but not the ass slap or cup check. Yep, when I closed for a fast food place I'd usually be the one to go and pick up traffic cones, signs, etc. We had signs directing traffic with these crazy heavy bases. I tried showing my male coworkers how I picked up the sign: reach around the base of the pole, lift with your legs, cradle the heavy base to your hip, pull out behind you. They just couldn't do it. They could lift it, yeah, but they just couldn't hold it the way I could. Most ended up just slinging it on their shoulder or dragging it on the floor. One guy hugged it to his chest until he got to the door. Got the job done. But man, do I feel bad for them. Work with children. As someone who works in early childhood education, I've had the cops called on me 3 times when I took my kiddos to the park. Thankfully I know the beat cop quite well, so it has never caused me any real issues. But the fact that people see adult men interacting with children and assume I'm a violent predator honestly hurts a lot. My team is all big, burly, heavily tattooed men, but we are all insanely qualified to do our jobs, but that all means nothing to some random Karen who sees scary-looking me give piggyback rides or do a girl's braids. I had a bad childhood and just want to care of the little ones. Kindly fuck off. As a 30-something single man, whenever I'm at a park and see an open swing set, I go for a swing because I don't care how old you are. Swinging is fun, but the minute a kid comes over and starts swinging, I leave because then I'm the creepy guy hanging around kids at the park. The fucked up thing is that you're with the woman, you're the cute couple. I wish parks would have adult-only playgrounds, lol. My daughter, 7 years, came home one day, very proud, telling me that her male teacher touched her upper leg the fun way. It felt like a heart attack, but after a minute to collect myself, I got the real story out of her. The school had a minivan where 2 kids could sit in the front. The teacher could never find the gear stick when leaving the school and used the kid's knee and then overreact when the van could not drive. All the kids found it funny and wanted to be the next one. That day was my daughter's turn, and I am glad I got the real story out of her before doing anything else. He was one of the best teachers she have had. About 10 years ago I was Christmas shopping for my twin nieces in Target. I was on the phone with my brother the whole time asking for his guidance. "Okay, so you already got them the Elsa's Frozen Wonderland Castle Lego set. What if I get them some of the smaller Frozen sets?" "Wait, they are into Minecraft now? I think I saw some Minecraft toys on the next aisle." "What about the I'll stand by Barbie?" "No." "Okay." The entire time I was there every woman was shooting daggers at me. When I got to the checkout, The young woman ringing me up shot me a dirty look. WTF people, I just wanted my nieces to have a fun Christmas. Yo, for real though, had a wacko flip her shit on me when I saw a kid tumble into the aisle at the store. Helped the kid up to see if they were okay and see if they needed any help. Fucking wacko doodle comes running up asking why I'm touching her kid and if that's how I get off. I just stood there dumbfounded. Luckily another customer came to my defense so it didn't escalate, but lady was still screaming about how I was going to abduct her kid and I was making it cry. Now I just let the kids be unless of course the kid's in some immediate danger. I hate people. I'm not afraid of getting accidentally hit in my private parts. It can hurt, but not nearly as much as men's, I believe. Edit, yes, I've been hurt down there pretty badly before, a chair or a table, but I don't think it's the same because nothing is, you know, hanging down there. Plus I always thought like, what if I was a dude and suddenly someone pulled it so hard that it came out completely with all blood and nerves and skin and all that glorious stuff. I've heard this from multiple tattoo artists. Out of 100 people who tape out or are big whiners, 90 are men. Women don't have a higher pain threshold but are honestly used to acting like they aren't in pain every month. We've been told since we were preteens to suck it up and deal with it silently. No one needs to hear about gross things like periods and it's not an excuse. I started birth control at 14 years before I had a boyfriend because of heavy painful periods that started when I was 12. We're talking vomiting kind of pain, sweating, shaking, lightheaded kind of pain. Yet I was expecting to sit in class and do gym class and eventually go to work all while not telling anyone about it and all without complaining. It doesn't hurt just your uterus, it hurts your lower back, your head, your breasts, your muscles. It's like having the flu, including the diarrhea, except every month and you have to pretend to be fine the whole time. I've gotten several tattoos. The one on my foot felt like a scalpel running down my foot over and over. I wanted to scream but I didn't so much as flinch or twitch while getting it done. So it's not that women have an easier time or higher threshold for pain, it's just that we're used to being in pain and no one caring. Women are constantly dismissed by doctors and other medical professionals for real problems. Too many people tell women it's just in their head, stress, female problems, their weight, or that they are just doing it for attention. My friend had her appendix burst at home because the ER sent her home and told her it was just period pain and to deal with it. I had to borderline harass an ER to look for the source of my sudden intense pain. They tried to send me home twice but I refused. They finally scanned me and I had 2 kidney stones. Doctor, women don't have a higher pain tolerance, they are just ignored or told to hide it. I think a lot of us women are just very used to being in pain and having to stay quiet about it. I have awful period cramps and chronic migraines, and in most situations if I'm experiencing either, or both, I have to poker face it no matter how much I want to scream because of the associated stigma. At this point the only pain that still scares me is childbirth. Tattoos are nothing. Since the majority of posts here are sexual, albeit sales. Seriously, female salespeople are on average much more successful than their male counterparts. In my industry, industrial sales, it's an open understanding that our typical sales contact, older middle-aged male, is much more interested in talking to females than males. Huge sales buff if you are young and at least a little attractive. If you are a hard-working, quick-witted and social young female looking for a high-paying job without education requirements, I would strongly encourage you to look into B2B sales. All of the technical knowledge you can learn on the job. Guy had the opposite experience. People took my male coworkers' word as gospel and trusted their advice and they made a killing. I was condescended to, they wanted to speak to a man, they needed a second opinion, etc. Not once did anyone make inappropriate comments to my male coworkers, yet I was getting gross, rude comments and multiple times had my butt grabbed or slapped. I didn't last long in that job and decided sales weren't for me. I was 30, so it's not like I was fresh out of college or otherwise green. I've never understood why monarchies have generally become patrilineal. It's just logistically tricky to be sure which man fathered which child, whereas it's generally easier to determine which child emerged out of which woman. The Chinese language even has throwback to some prehistoric matrilineal society. The word for surname is kama, which has a very clear female component on the left. This implies that at some point in early Chinese writing, people took their surname from their mothers. The paperwork was probably easier that way. Yep, this is one that has always been weird to me. Most people don't bat an eye if women wear looser pants, longer shorts, etc. But if a guy was to wear a skirt, tube top or any women's clothing, people will notice. Only thing that women can't wear, that guys can, is board shorts. And no shirt. I mean, you can go topless, but most countries are not okay with that in public. Or even just look kinda ambiguous. I'm a very androgynous looking gal, tall, broad, short hair, men's clothes, because they're the ones that actually fit me, the works. And I have a friend who's like the gender flipped version of me, short slim dude with long hair who tends to wear women's clothes because they fit him better. I've heard him get a lot more snide remarks than I have, and I live in Scandinavia, both from the sort of people you'd stereotypically expect to get those sorts of remarks from, but also from the sort of folks who wouldn't bat an eye at me. Even more progressive people do this. I'll get the entire "Oh, what are your pronouns" song and dance, and he'll get "So you going to a party later or something?" as if that's the only reason why he'd be in a woman's blouse. I mean, to be fair, the other alternative, that the only reason why I'd wear men's clothes is because I'm not actually a woman, kinda sucks too. Like, come you try finding clothes in the ladies department with big ass shoulder and long ass legs. I was the first girl to wear trousers at my school, England, in the late 90s. My mom wrote to the school to ask for permission to change the policy. I did not particularly want to wear trousers, but my mom made me to make her point, and in a way I agree with her now. It's hard challenging those sorts of norms, and the way women had to fight to wear trousers feels similar to the way men now have to fight to wear skirts. I know a few guys who wear skirts sometimes and I think it looks great. Hopefully in a few years' time this will be even less of an issue. I feel like we are getting a little better at this. A lot of Old Spice scents actually say things like pine and cedar on the labels. I'm more likely to buy a deodorant if it smells of something familiar and recognizable, so I usually go with one of those or something that has mint, eucalyptus or aloe. Hopefully the marketing people are picking up on this and make men's products easier to buy. Here's a fun one. Women are generally better at conserving air while scuba diving. I teach scuba and 95% of the time my female students could stay down twice as long on their first dive than their male counterparts. It's a big pick-me-up for so many tiny women who think all the heavy gear is going to set them back from the big muscular guys. Update. So surprised to see this response. Glad you guys think it's as interesting as I do. Looks like some studies have been done on this. There's a Telegraph article behind a paywall that links to the studies. But for more casual reading, check this out. https://www.scubaexperts.com/ Are women better scuba divers than men? In my opinion, I think the major piece of the equation does have to do with oxygen use being more efficient in women due to sheer muscle mass, but I do see there is a psychological aspect to it too. I see a majority of men take heaving breaths rather than normal relaxed breaths. Because of this, sometimes these guys will be overweighted to counteract the positive lift created by their lungs. This means they're dragging around more weight and thus exerting more energy. Along with that, I tend to see a lot of women relax in the water a lot faster than men do, so they become accustomed to what breathing regularly underwater is like. For those of you who have asked how to become more conservative divers, here are a few tips. Practice buoyancy. The closer to neutral buoyancy you get, the less drag you'll have. As you get accustomed, you'll find you can shed lead from your gear, which continues to make you more efficient. Spend some time focusing on your breath. For the first few months of diving, my primary concern was my breath and making sure to always keep breathing. You have to counteract the desire to take deep gulps of air and instead try to find a rate at which you are relaxed. Skip breathing isn't the goal either. That will just make you want to suck down more air later as you get exerted. By hold your breath. As you get used to this rate, you can play with changing your breaths to change your buoyancy. Relax. Taking it slow and using efficient movements is going to allow you to conserve air throughout your whole dive. As a bonus, if you take things slowly, you are more aware of your surroundings and tend to see more life. When I took hazmat with the U.S. Army, we used SCBA Firehawk masks for training in full hazmat suits. I was the only woman going through training. We were told one per group would be going through the full decon process. The one going through would be the one who used the most air. They didn't even bother to check my tank gauge because the instructors knew I wouldn't be using anywhere near as much air as the guys would. Tons of martial arts throws. Female center of mass is lower down in the body than male center of mass, even before accounting for height differences, and it's absolutely crucial to certain martial arts throws, like, you know that one throw you see all the time in movies where someone grabs a person from behind, and that person just leans forward and rolls them over their shoulder? Yeah, that's almost impossible for most men to do unless the stunned person grabbing them is helping with it. But for your typical woman, it's literally as easy as leaning forward. It takes basically no strength. It's all leverage. I'm a man who practices mixed martial arts, and 4 times out of 5 when I'm sparring a woman and I lose against her, it's because she threw me. Can confirm. In my country there is a specific type of wrestling where it's all about throwing the other person, not mat work like in the US. Anyways, I'm the first girl in a generation in my family and had a dozen male cousins that loved to torture me. One day they got the fresh idea to teach me how to wrestle, and I quickly grasped it and started throwing them left and right. They didn't want to play anymore after that. Sad. I practice Muay Thai and clinching is absolutely my favorite part. Thanks, cousins. I'm a male server and I can confirm, the other women who serve at my job make double or sometimes triple my tips. Those ladies get single $100 tips regularly, which I've never gotten. That said, it's not always greener on the other side of the fence. They still have to deal with a lot of harassment and unwanted attention from creepy guys. And don't forget those mean old ladies. They are especially rude to the younger women working there. There are a lot of advantages to piloting high-performance vehicles that come from being smaller. Better strength-to-weight ratios help with G-forces. Having a smaller distance from your heart to your brain makes you less likely to pass out from stagnant hypoxia. And fitting into small places is great for fighter pilots and astronauts. Obviously not all women are smaller than all men, but women have a statistical advantage in this respect. Any dating app. I try to be sincere and put effort into my profile. I try to describe myself the best I can as well as what I'm looking for, and answered hundreds of questions. Most of this stuff I swipe on, 1 or 2 pictures with lol. Just send a message, and maybe half a dozen questions answered. Doesn't help that OkCupid made it so you don't see messages until you match. So if you like someone, you have to pray as a guy they manage to find your profile and swipe right. Compliment any complete stranger. As a dude, I have to be very careful complimenting strangers. I will actually tell my wife, check her hair out, it's super cool. Will you tell her? And she will. And it made that stranger's day. Just wish I could do that more often without being seen as creepy. This especially applies to children. It's a big no-no for a 41-year-old guy to compliment a child saying they look super pretty. Woman, no issue. Binaural hearing. Using headphones. Play different recordings per ear which each contain mostly gibberish with the occasional intelligible word thrown in. Women are consistently better at recognizing the words, particularly when 2 intelligible words are played at the same time. Men have more difficulty with this. The reason this experiment is fascinating and repeated many times is that cis women and trans women perform just as well as each other, with trans men and cis men together doing generally worse. We don't know why. This is true, and documented. Women are better at following two conversations at once. However, we have a much harder time tuning out a second conversation. Once did an experiment where I was listening to a male voice telling a story. He started a story in the left ear. A minute later the same voice started a different story in the right ear. I was supposed to follow the first story and ignore the second. Could not. If it had different voices I could have followed both. Men are better at ignoring the second story.